Hello everyone, we are going to be talking about social perception in this chapter. With this video, I'm going to be talking about the kinds of judgments that we make and what kinds of things might influence our judgments. The first thing is that there are some people who are high in need for cognition. A need for cognition is really when a person wants to understand the world and solve problems. And the best illustration of somebody who is high in need for cognition is Sherlock Holmes. So this is somebody who is not satisfied with anything but fully understanding a situation. And so that's a stereotype that Sherlock Holmes doesn't actually exist. But there's this idea that if you're high in need for cognition, you are obsessed with kind of finding out the truth. And so this is really an extreme example of that. But in general, you probably find in your own lives that there are some people who kind of accept what other people say to them. And then there are other people who say, no, I really want to know more about this. Show me where you got this information from. And let me make sure that I understand it. So that's what need for cognition is. Next, I'm going to talk about primacy versus recency. Before I do that, I'm going to have a little demonstration. So I'm going to show you the text from a very, very short piece of the I Have a Dream speech that Martin Luther King gave. And I'm going to ask you what you remember from that text. So I'm going to put the text up, pause the video, read it. Don't try to memorize it, but just kind of read it, and then unpause the video. Okay, now that you've read it, I want you to pause the video and think about what you remember. And then when you're kind of have an idea of what you remember, unpause the video. Okay, this is the text. And I imagine that many of you remember the first part, probably something about the luxury of cooling off or there is no time, and the last part, something about the solid rock of brotherhood. So what that is demonstrating is primacy and recency. And people are most likely to remember the first and last things from a particular set. And so you remembered the first part of the speech and the last part of the speech. The first part of the speech because that's what you encountered, and the last part of the speech because that's what you committed to memory right before I asked you what you remembered. Now we're going to talk about dispositional versus situational attributions. If you make a dispositional attribution, you're saying that something has to do with somebody's personality or is internal to the self. So you could say, Avram screamed because he scares easily. So you're saying Avram is screaming because of something about himself, about his personality. Conversely, you can make a situational attribution, something that is external to the self, and you could say Avram screamed because he was watching a really scary movie. So in this case, you're saying, oh, it wasn't necessarily that there was something about Avram that made him scream, but it was something outside of him. It was this very scary movie.